Let's talk about the dark side of having boundaries. It can lead you to a place of solitude where you will find yourself doing a lot of things by yourself. You will find that your phone will be dry. You will find that, no one's going to be calling you to invite you to events or holidays or vacations or trips. And you're going to find that you're not going to really have a lot of people that you can call to do these things with. And the reason why is because by the time you get done identifying all of the people around you who have a tendency to violate your boundaries, you will realize that that makes up most of the people that you know. Now, once you start to identify who is in your circle that has a tendency to violate your boundaries, then you have to decide whether you're going to set boundaries with that person. And once you start to set boundaries with people and let them know what your expectations are, that's when you're going to start to see pushback. That's when you're going to find out who really truly values their connection with you, who respects you, who wants to remain in your circle of influence, and you're going to find out who doesn't respect you and who is only around you because of what they could benefit from you. There's a saying that says the people who don't want you to have boundaries are the ones who benefited from you not having any. So once you start to set boundaries and say that you don't like being treated a certain way or that you want to be treated differently, better, that's when you will see who values their connection with you and who doesn't. And that's a reality that a lot of people have a hard time facing. That's the fear that seems to surround the topic of setting boundaries is who's going to like me? Who's going to stick around? Am I going to have, people around me? Are people going to want to be my friend? Are they going to want to continue to be in a relationship with me if I set these boundaries? Those are the main questions that I hear. But you have to kind of pick your poison. Are you going to continue to be in situations and relationships with people where you feel disrespected, where you don't feel seen or heard? Or are you going to value yourself and deal with some of the discomfort of not having those people around, but being in a better space mentally and emotionally? Once you gather up the strength to vocalize your boundaries, there will almost always be pushback. And the reason why is because most people have a difficult time seeing past their own thoughts, emotions, judgments, lack of insight, and selfishness enough to hold space for you and your requests. Oftentimes, they will be offended by your wants and needs to be treated a certain way. These interactions will leave you with a tough decision about whether you want to continue your relationship with certain family members, certain friends, co-workers, or even partners. So you may have to ask yourself these questions. Do I recategorize them from friend to associate to foe? Do I create a respectable distance between myself and that individual where I'm not giving as much of myself to them? Or do I cut them off completely? And those are the top 3 questions that you will have to consider when you start setting boundaries and you start getting that pushback. Now, some people you can simply just recategorize them from friend, which I notice a lot of people seem to put the title of friend on someone who really should just be an associate. So a friendship is something that gets created over time. It's not something that just happens as soon as you meet somebody in school or a coworker or somebody at the bar that you had a really good conversation with. That is not your friend. That is an associate. What makes a friend is somebody that has shown over time that they're consistent, that the relationship is reciprocal, that you give and they give. And it's not a tit for tat thing, but you just know that if you need to call them for something, they're going to be there for you, or they've shown up to be there for you as much as you have given yourself to them. So reciprocation is a really big thing about friendships that I think needs to be looked at more before we give someone the title of being a friend. The offense is so egregious that it's just betrayed your trust, and it betrays, your value system, your morals, and your respect. Then that might be a situation that you have to consider. Do I need to cut ties completely? So what does the dark side look like? It looks like your phone being dry. So that means that you're not going to get as many text messages, which means that your dopamine hits aren't going to be as much as they used to be. So you're going to have to find other things to do to get a dopamine hit throughout the day. But your phone will be dry. People will not be calling you. They will not be texting you because you have set that boundary that you cannot take advantage of me. I'm not going to be at your beck and call. You have to reciprocate. So whatever those boundaries are, if that person or those folks are not willing to meet those boundaries, then you will notice that they're not going to call you as much. They're not going to want you to be around as much because they can't take advantage of you anymore. And if you think about it, are those the type of people that you really want to be in your circle? Are they? So yes, so your phone will be dry. You'll notice that you're not going to get as many invites to family gatherings and holidays and things like that. And the reason why is because generally when they were inviting you is because you were playing a role in that process, whether you were bringing something, which is okay to bring things, but when people just have you around because they know that they're going to take advantage of you or require you to do something in order to be a part of that process or event, then that's where it's not as genuine. So you're not going to get as many invites to events. So you're going to have to find other things to fill your time. You will find that your weekends, you will be spending a lot of time with yourself, which in this day and time with everything going the way that it is and the economying, sometimes it's okay to be home. But you will notice that you might be home or you might just be by yourself trying to figure out what to do with your time more often by yourself because you're not going to get those invites to come out. And again, people usually try to invite you out because they want you to give them a ride. They want you to pay for something. So you have to think about, quantity over quality. Do you want a lot of invites or do you want quality invites? So when you do get invited somewhere, you're actually having a good time because the person actually wants you there and they're not requiring much of you to be there. You will have a limited support system. So a lot of people who take advantage of you, they disguise themselves as being supportive, but you will find out that it was only because they wanted something from you. The support came with conditions. And so you may not have as many people to call when you need something or, need support and need someone to talk to. So you're going to have to make best friends with your journal. You're going to have to go to therapy. You're going to have to, confide in possibly a stranger with your problems just to kind of sort things through because the people that you generally would call are no longer available to you. You'll find that you will have a mundane schedule. You'll go to work, you'll go to the gym, and you'll come home. Repeat. So that can kind of get a little depressing for some people, but that's what the dark side of boundaries looks like. And another thing is that you will probably have to travel solo or just spend the holidays alone. And that in itself can be very depressing to people. So these are reasons why people are afraid of setting boundaries because these are what, some people would consider consequences for themselves to set boundaries. But again, you have to pick your poison. Would you rather be around people who are disingenuous and do not reciprocate? Or would you rather spend time with yourself, getting to know yourself, getting in touch with yourself, and know that you're not being disrespected? You don't have to be something that you're not to be around people who really don't like you anyway. So yes, that's the dark side of boundaries, and it's up to you. It's up to you whether you feel like it's worth it or not, but those are the fears that most people have about setting boundaries.